probably some anxious people around the place. We have students from several different other universities trying to get connected to us.
Now it's running.
Now it's running?
Yeah.
Oh, good. We just have to check if, I'm not sure if they are, you know, if it's running exactly the same link that I had sent you on the email. It is,
Yes.
so it means that people will be able to watch us. You sure about that? Maybe just, if you have that email, that's what you tried? Are we, remember that I sent you an email saying, and you test, that's, so they are seeing me?
Yes.
Good, right. And the sound is okay?
Yes.
You can hear. Good, so now we can start. First of all, I'd like to apologize for this 10-minute delay here, playing with all the infrastructure. This is still very challengeable to me. I see my kids doing this very easily, but I guess they have a very sad environment. You know, they're in their rooms, the computer is there all the time, all the gadgets are there, they don't have to move things around, and each time I move to this room or to another room here, I have to arrive here 1 hour before. I was here at 7:30 today to make sure that everything was working. And then suddenly I realized that, well, there's no, the camera is not showing one of the screens that it should show. And well, now I don't have the microphone, or all weird things happen. But I guess that's something that happens when we work with technology. I think this seems to be much more robust when you just use your cell phone and record a live on Facebook or something. For classes, I still feel that if I were in my office at home, it would be okay. But here, I always find it challengeable. So for those of you who are watching us from a distance, I would say be patient if at the beginning of a class we have a problem. Of course, everyone who's here will notice that we're trying to put things to work. But if you are either at home or in a different university classroom, it may take a little while. And if nothing happens at all, just know that we are recording all these classes and that they will be available afterwards. In fact, this also is maybe good information for you. If you eventually have a problem and you can't come to class one day, you can watch it from anywhere. This is not meant to be a distance course, right? It's meant to happen here. I think it's still much easier for us, mainly for us who are in the same city, to be together and to share ideas in a room like this. I am one of those people who believe that although technology is changing the way we teach and the way we learn in several ways, and in fact we will have, even at the university, we'll have to rethink most of our methods the way we are trying to do it here. I still think that there will be room for presential classes, for people to have this eye-to-eye contact, and that we should avoid this mainly in those cases where it's impossible. For example, for this class here, I think we have 5 or 6 doctoral students taking it from Porto Alegre. We have some more students taking it from, some doctoral students as well taking it from São Paulo, Porto Alegre, URGS, Uninove. I know that there are some students from Universidade Federal da Bahia that are also taking this course online. Hopefully we will have, and in fact, just to explain why we're doing this, I belong to this research community called Information Systems. It's a large community that basically studies the ways in which computer technology is used in organizations and by our society in general. And this community of researchers, mainly the Latin American, what we call the Latin American chapter of the Association for Information Systems, we always complain that in most schools, in most graduate schools, we have 1 or 2 professors only that have this perspective of looking at technology as the object of our studies and not as the objective of it, right? Even here at our applied computing program at UTFPR, most of my colleagues they're studying ways of improving the technology itself, or discussing ways in which the technology can be improved, or thinking of new algorithms to do different things. And I'm the guy, or we have 2 or 3 people that are trying to do that look at technology and see how does this impact organizations, how does this impact our lives, right? So this is the aim of information systems as a discipline, as an area of study. Look at technology as the object, not the objective. The objective is what this technology, the changes that this technology causes in our organizations, in our society. If we have that notion of impact, technology impacting its environment, or at least the way it influences other decisions that we humans take in our lives and in the organizations where we work, because that technology is there, right? So, and then what I was saying is that this group, the Latin America and Caribbean chapter of the Association for Information Systems, has always, we as members of this community have always complained that there are maybe some, well, there's quite a few of us studying technology from this perspective, but each one of us is at a different university. And when our students have to take courses in master's or doctoral schools, they are taking other courses in marketing, operations management, computer science, and so on and so forth, because they have to take so many credits, right? They have to, but what they are trying to research is actually information systems in many cases. And then as each one of us is isolated, our students tend to take a lot of other subjects that will not focus them on the theses that they're writing, or the dissertations that they're writing, or even when they're undergraduate students, the work that they want to go on doing. So a few years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, we decided that we would try to make an effort to offer the courses that we teach to the community. Well, there are other ways of doing. Just saying, well, we are let's say a federal university in Brazil, our courses are free. We could just say, if you're a student at any other university taking a master's or a doctoral degree, you can come here and take our classes, no problem. But will people come from, you know, another city to do that? Is that feasible? They still have to take classes in their own universities. So the idea was, let's try and do something that goes a little in the direction of distance learning. We still want it to be as presential as possible. This is why I emphasize the idea that we would have to, we have to be here together at the same time, everyone at 8:20 in the morning, Brasilia time for. And that doesn't mean, if someone is in Cuiabá, like we have a student who's taking this course from Cuiabá, it means that he will have to set to our times, preferably. Because then when we try to exercise collective intelligence, that is our topic of study, but at the same time, if we believe that this is something that should be studied, we should believe that it's something that we should also practice, right? And if we want to practice collective intelligence, it's probably good that we do it in real time, at least for learning. It's not necessarily the only way of doing it, but it's good, for example, when we decide to get into a forum discussion, that we are all discussing there at the same time, because then the ideas of one of the persons can already light the ideas of someone else at that right time, and they can get involved in a good discussion. Again, it can be also done in a what I would call an asynchronous form. You write something now, and someone else writes a response to you 3 hours from now, or 3 days from now. If we were a really huge group of research of people trying to study this, that would probably make no difference, because you would write something now, And even if some people would only respond to that in a few days, there would be someone that would respond immediately. I just don't want you to be in that situation that you feel alone, you know. You write something and nobody cares about it. And in that sense, I would like to emphasize this procedure of working on our discussion forums, everyone at the same time, whenever possible, right? But again, if you have any problems coming to class one day, make sure that you watch class in a different day. One of the problems that I had in the past, and this is going to be one of the things that I'll try to fix this year, is that mainly for those students who were not here with us in class, I sometimes didn't know if they had gotten in contact with the material for that day, right? This is broadcasting. This is the old way, right? In one sense, I am here talking, and people will have a video there that they can watch, but I don't know if they're actually watching or not. Mm-hmm. And then when at the end of the term, I had students that were taking, for example, the final exam, and I read the exam and I said, gee, this has nothing to do with what we discussed during the whole term. I thought, was this person actually attending the course? So what I will try to do this time is every day you have to do a check-in, right, during class. At some time I'll say, okay, now you have to say that you were here. And the days that you, for any reason, were not able to be here with us, if you're going to watch it afterwards, of course it's going to be there at the middle of the recording. Oh, now you have to get into this usually what I have is a form there. You have to fill in, you have to check in this form and say hello, or say goodbye, or say Apple, or whatever. That's the password for. So that's something that I'll try to implement here, so that we keep track of, make sure that you're watching and you keep track to what others are doing as well. If it's going to be a collective effort, we depend a lot on the others also doing the readings, right? And commenting in our forums in an informed way, right? We don't want this to become what I call pub talk, right? Where you go there and you talk about things that you many times you know, but you know from hearing from other people. We want you to be informed by the papers and the books that we are discussing. We may disagree with them, but at first we have to have read them and understood what those authors meant, so that we can then form our own opinion. It's research, right? And it's academic, it's scientific research that we're trying to do here, and therefore it cannot be, well, I think. Whenever I say I think, it means that you're probably going to guess something based on common sense, and that's not what we want. So it's important that we keep pace with respect to all the readings. There will be weeks that we'll read more, there will be weeks that we'll have less to read, but there's always going to be some loads of work, and I expect this load of work it will depend on how acquainted you are with reading in English, but I expect it to be at least some 5-6 hours of reading per week in preparation to the class, right? One of the things that you'll notice in this blended way of doing a course, like with this sort of technology that we are using, is that it's much more difficult to hide, right? A student in a class of 40 people, I don't think we are 40, I think we are some 20 people here and another 20 people, yeah, maybe 40. But in a group of 40, in a regular class, the teacher hardly ever knows if everyone is actually involved, right? And besides, nowadays, we may know that everyone is involved for the first 5 minutes, but what happens next, right? We want you to be involved, and we need you to be involved, regardless of this being more, how would I say, a lecture where I talk, or more like exchanging ideas in the forums. As I said, we will put more emphasis into the forum discussions, because I know that for many of you, language is still a challenge. And then we have additional tools that can help us improve our ability to discuss a topic that is important to us in the language of science, that is English, right? For many years I have, well, for most of my career as let's say, professor or researcher or whatever, I've published only in Portuguese, because I thought I was in a federal, so a public university in Brazil, and most of the outlets for publishing in English were outlets that when you publish there, your publication was hidden from the people because people had to pay to get access to it, right? So that was one of my reasons. I thought, well, I'm doing research in Brazil with Brazilian funds from the government. It has to help other people in Brazil. I'm not as attached to that idea any longer for several reasons. One practical reason is that, okay, yeah, English, when you do it in a different language, you put a barrier to your own people. But at the same time, if we do this in English, and that is something that I've heard from some of the students that have taken this course or other courses that we offered here at the two programs that work together on this, the applied computing and the business administration graduate programs, many of the students later say, you know, it was good because in addition to learning and discussing the content, I was also getting better with my English. So it was not that I want to be your English teacher here, right? I think that you'll get better English teachers than I can be, right? So that's not my intent. But I thought that was good. We will have to, we're being pushed to publish in English each time more for several reasons. First, Brazilians, we're watching Netflix, right? So we're all watching things in English now, and the kids of today, many of them are much more fluent than the older generations could be. I remember when I was in 7th grade that I started learning English at the army school here in Curitiba. We had this colonel who was the teacher, and he was there, and the boards showing us all the, you know, how to conjugate all different verbs and everything. And we looked at them and said, when the hell will I use this? You know, there's, you know, the furthest away that I can think that I could go on this planet is maybe to Argentina or Paraguay, and that's only the border, right? This is completely unnecessary. That was the view of my generation, right? When we started being exposed to other languages, that was the impression that we had. Brazil is so big, we'll never have an opportunity to use that, right? This doesn't happen to the generations that are following us. The world has shrunk. It's at least in our minds, it's much smaller. And I don't regret the fact that I was one of those students that just like to learn. So I said, well, I don't know if I would use that, but well, if they're teaching, let's learn it, right? And in my career, it has always made a difference. Many of the things that I was able to do were related to knowing English, and then later having studied German, Spanish, and other languages that I don't speak as well as I wished, but that I have also tried to learn to some extent, because that opened doors. And so in the past, it was like a competitive advantage, as we say in business, right? Today, it's not a competitive advantage any longer. It's just a requirement to be in business or to do whatever we do. So it's a requirement also for us researchers. And therefore, I am reviewing my own considerations about publication. I'm even considering publishing in outlets that are very respectful, but that I had never considered publishing, because I thought, well, I'll publish the research that was done with public or let's say the community's money, and now it will be locked. It's not so locked any longer. We here in Brazil have, most researchers will have access at least to periódicos CAPES, right? And so whenever we see that, oh, there's this paper, they're charging me $20 to have access to it, it's only if you're really desperate and you need that paper that same day that you will not be able to get access to it in different ways. Some of our students here that have taken this class and that are involved with our research group are writing their assignments, their papers in English directly, and it's a pretty good job. You know, like many times they were shy to speak in English, but we notice that the text is good already, right? And I think that one of the things that helps us to have the text in a much better form than in the past in English is that today we have all these online translators that can help us improve our text as well. So I will demand you much more in written than orally. Of course, you're always free to ask anything, and in fact that will turn my class into a less, it will have less, it will have a little less of this format of a lecture. This is not a format that I like. I get really tired after a while when I'm the only one speaking. But I realize that for this class, this will happen to more extent than it happens in some of the classes that I teach in Portuguese, because some of you are still not confident enough to participate so much. But don't feel shy if you want to ask. But know that we will emphasize written exchange of ideas so that people from different cultures and speaking different languages can interact in a good way. I said that we can't hide because, of course, if we have a forum and in the forum people will be able to contribute, technology also shows me and shows you who's contributing, right? So you appear there and, well, this is the comment of, and it's not, we can't hide, and we have to look smart or sound smart, right? So we have to read, because otherwise people will say, gee, what is this guy doing here? Has he or she read the paper at all? We're talking about the one. So I think this push of technology will be good, because it will make us all feel that obliged to, to really put effort into it, and you'll see that we will grow a lot based on that, right? So it's challenging. The technology will trick us most of the time, but I think it will work right. Well, so let's, having said all of that, why collective intelligence became an issue to our research group here, and why we think that this is a topic that is very important today and will be important for us in the future. For us, not just our research group, it will be important for mankind in the future. We as humans have always been a collective, right? In fact, we only succeeded as a race because we started working collectively to accomplish the results that we needed. And the results that we needed was, in many cases, just surviving surviving nature. Nature was very aggressive to humans with this body that we have that is not very, at least not as suited to survive in a dangerous environment as it is the lion's body, for example, or even the elephant's. Or the elephant seems is a calm animal, but it's too big for the lion to kill. But we are the right size for the lions to kill, right? How did we survive? If we think how our great grandparents survived in nature, it's impressive that we were able to do that, because we're not fit. We are the less likely. In fact, ants are much more fit than we are. The big and the small animals are much fitter than we are to survive in the hostile environment in which our great-great-great-grandparents used to live, right? Our ancestors. Maybe today the environment has changed. I think it has. In fact, we have to change our nature of trying to not only to survive but to dominate nature, because we have already done so. Right? So now we are impressively much stronger as a race than any of these other animals that I mentioned. But it's basically because we have always used our collective intelligence. Right? In the past, we used our collective intelligence in weaker ways that we are able to use today. Because although the collective intelligence for being collective already means participating in a network, right? Only very recently, maybe the last 40 or 50 years, we're actually being connected in networks that go much further than just family or local communities, right? In fact, some of our authors will claim that if a Martian puts a telescope and tries to understand what happens here on Earth, they will say, well, there is this weird creature that lives there, only one creature, mankind, right? We are not going to be seen as individuals. At least some authors already consider that we're not going to be seen by an alien as independent, single individuals. We're going to be seen as one only giant animal that lives here, and each one of us will be, in a metaphor, just a neuron of this big brain that is mankind. Right? I don't want to get too philosophical about this, but think of you as being the last neuron on a brain that is the whole mankind. And to some extent, that's something that we've been trying to accomplish for centuries or thousands of years, right? And now we can do it, because as a weak neuron here at the end of this big brain, if I want to, for example, I had a problem, not a problem, a challenge a few years ago. I was teaching, I teach in a graduate course in France in January. And the last day of class, the students brought me a bottle of national wine, right? That they said, well, this is, well, we enjoy the course, so please take that as a gift from us. And it was national. I thought that I should drink it nationally, right? I went to my room in the hotel before packing my baggage to come back to Brazil, and I said, I'll have this wine here. But I had a problem. I don't carry usually in my luggage a cork. I don't know how you call that in English, to extract the cork, right? And my French is horrible, right? So only just considering that I would have to go down or had to get the phone and talk to someone, a clerk, to explain that I needed something to get the cork out, I feel, as I already feel as, you know, the last neuron in this large brain, I thought, well, maybe some other neurons already have a solution for this. So I went to Google, or what I call the Great Oracle, right, and said, how can I solve this problem, right? I even had a few slides that I prepared a few semesters ago about the different alternatives that they would give there, right? Many of them were almost more difficult than going down and asking for the cork extracting thing. But one of them was interesting. It said, take your shoes off, put the bottle inside, and bang it against the wall, and the cork will start coming out. I thought that was a little weird, but worth an attempt, right? It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I definitely would not, the noise would not disturb anyone, so I went there and pen, and indeed it worked. So that's collective intelligence. It's the intelligence of another neuron in the brain telling me, look, I've already done that, I've already experienced this problem, and I solved it this way. So when we get, and one of our authors that we'll discuss a lot here, Pierre Lévy, one of the French philosophers that discusses collective intelligence, he's much more optimistic than many of the authors that discuss collective intelligence, but he says the beauty of this is that anyone in the world knows something that the remaining of mankind doesn't. So we are all important in building this smarter brain because we all know something that nobody else knows, and that can be put together with information and knowledge from other people so that we as mankind becomes even smarter, right? I tend to believe, to agree with that, and I think it's a positive way of us to think of where we can go with this. The problem that we have today is that it's difficult to figure out when this last neuron, or any one of the last neurons in the brain, is being intelligent and when it's being stupid, right? So one of the challenges that we have for the future is trying to filter intelligence, because we are intelligent, each one of us is intelligent in a few things and is dumb in many. But as a group, and if we can separate, and if we can ourselves understand, well, I know about this, I don't know about that, so I can lead here and I'll be quiet there. If we, as these last neurons, learn that, we'll be doing, we could be able to do amazing things for mankind. But we're in the process of learning. At the right moment, we're in a process that we were released from technologies that we have developed in the past that were very good for broadcasting. So supposedly the smarts could tell the remaining of the people, the other brain, the other neurons in the brain, what to do and dictate what others would be doing. And we came to this chaotic situation in which every one of us can broadcast. Right? We're doing it right now, right? Anyone can do this, and it's accessible by the whole world. Should we be doing it the way we are, with the amount of enthusiasm that we are, right? Should we be posting, I have a meal, I take a photograph of it and it's on Instagram or should we all be doing that all the time? I don't know, but this is probably because we have been restricted from these possibilities for so long to broadcast to the. We all wanted to be William Bonners of our ideas, and we had no opportunity to do that, right? Or Oprah for the Americans. Some people in the past had the power of broadcasting and everyone could see. Now everyone can broadcast. It doesn't mean that everyone will see, and that is probably making us a little more frustrated than. And this is one of the problems that psychologists will have to deal. We all want to have. We all have that what I call Roberto Carlos syndrome. We all want to have 1 million friends, right? We may all have 1 million friends, but the friends don't talk. Even the close friends don't talk to us any longer because we are all connect. We have to connect to those 1 million friends. So we're in a moment that we'll have to sort out. But it is probably just a matter of learning. We've learned the possibilities of the new technologies that we've developed, but now we have to learn exactly how to use them and in which situations, and if and when we do that, we will develop the kind of collective intelligence that we are trying to research. In our research group, we are more interested, not only, but we are more interested in harnessing collective intelligence for trying to empower the people. It's dangerous because look what's happening in our social networks these days. We're all empowered, and we've become all very intolerant to difference. It's weird because we have to talk about difference much more today than we used to talk in the past. And I know when I complain about this, even my kids tell me, but you know, it's just a matter that in the past you didn't respect difference. Well, in some cases we didn't know about difference. In some cases, I think that we even respect it more than we do today. You know, like I think because now it seems that we all have to impose we want that we have to impose our differences on others, and the respect that we want from others is not just accepting the differences that we, but also becoming in favor of all differences all the times, which and for all situations. This is a polemic topic, but it's something that has appeared exactly from the fact that we are now able to notice that we are all minorities in some sort. Well, not all of us. I always think of myself, and I think, well, I'm probably one of the majorities in you know, case. I'm probably one of those that will be punched my whole life because you know, I don't have any of those reasons to feel different in any way. But I think we should use every and each one of us being the last neuron in this brain, the humanity brain. We will have to learn how to deal with this, and mainly we'll have to learn how to deal with the differences in a way of respecting them and respecting other people's ideas without necessarily having to agree with them. And mainly, I think that we'll have to be able to accept that everyone should have their rights of expressing their ideas, being them politically correct or not. It's dangerous. We've had when Hitler and others express their very politically incorrect ideas, they got support, and we see a lot of very politically incorrect ideas getting support. But we should challenge those ideas with arguments and get more people, other neurons from that are part of this large collective to understand that that's not reasonable. But we shouldn't, in my opinion, and this is something that we'll have to find ways of doing, we shouldn't simply prevent people from saying things that we think that are politically incorrect. Because if they don't say it, it doesn't mean that they don't feel, right? It's important that people express what they feel so that we can challenge, we can judge, I mean, ideas should be, in my opinion, should be free to be exposed. Actions should be prevented if they are, you know, I may have very weird ideas. When I turn them into actions that disturb other people's rights, or then they definitely have to be prevented. But the ideas themselves, if you prevent a weird idea from happening, well, why? First of all, why is it weird? Let's discuss it. Maybe it's not. It's each one. But anyway, that all to say that it's going to be very challenging to develop this collective intelligence, because the collective intelligence is not agreement at all, right? It's going to be, many times it raises and it becomes a better intelligence for the group precisely because we are different, precisely because we think differently. And we'll have to find ways in which to make sure that the ideas that result from the collective are the ideas that help us obtain or achieve the results that we want at the end. Who is this we want? This is when I say that our research group is very interested in empowering the peoples. I'm saying that I'm not so enthusiastic about studying collective intelligence to help Facebook, YouTube. It's a good tool for us here. Facebook is also a good tool for, or WhatsApp, or any of these technologies, that they are all built on collective intelligence. In fact, I would say that most of the successful business of this century, or late, or from the even from the 90s, most of the successful business completely rely on collective intelligence. But many of them rely on the collective intelligence of the peoples to empower a few, the owners of the company or whatever, right? So I'm not as much in favor of studying that myself, and in our research group we try to escape that a little, but it's also good to try and understand. We study all these platforms because we think that when we see what people are engaging into that, why are they doing? So we need to think of what the motivations for collective intelligence are. We're all participating on something because we think that that's important, right? So why are people feeding Facebook? For example, Facebook is in my opinion, I have an account there, and I go there once a month at least to check. Well, if someone writes something there, it will show on my email. I know I'm from a generation that's still too attached to the email, but then I'll see it's what the person wants. But I never get into Facebook to see what's happening in my timeline, right? But it seems that I'm doing something that's different to the majority of people. What takes people to Facebook, and what makes people feed Facebook with content that will help Facebook sell them things and sell them to their friends or to other people? This is something that we have to try and understand. So we have some people researching Facebook, and the same as with WhatsApp. I don't use WhatsApp myself, right? Yeah, I'm an alien. Sometimes as a researcher, that's the only. It's each time less easy for me to justify that. And maybe well, I already have now a smartphone. It's actually here. But well, if you see some of my classes that I recorded last year, it was an old Nokia, and my phone, my Nokia disappeared a little before Christmas last year, and then I was kindly given a smartphone, which means that we don't take decisions on our own, right? Decisions are taken collectively. So you may see me, if you see a video in the future, you may see that I'm WhatsApping or zapping people or whatever. But for now, I still don't have it. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the reason why I'll probably have to have it. I've even considered the fact that maybe I'll have a second chip here so that my wife would be happy, you know, and she could talk to me on WhatsApp. So at this right moment, my decision on one day using WhatsApp is my wife wants to talk to me there for some reason. She thinks that she can't call me, or well, sending me an email is not very romantic, but anyway. But we do study WhatsApp, right? One of the argument, one of the justifications for that would be if we are too involved with the technology, we can't look at a critical perspective, right? So I still say that I prefer to be the fly on the wall and see what's happening there, because then I can see that as I said, that a Martian would look at us. Maybe it sounded weird to you that a Martian would probably think that we are all parts of one only organism. But for the Martian, that would be okay, right? So I can look at what happens in WhatsApp from a perspective that I think would be a little more difficult if I were a participant in that venture, collective venture, right? Collective. But you'll see that, for example, one of the things that I say is mainly for those who are at a distance, I think I have to agree here that it's difficult to keep out. So I say, well, maybe if you want to create a WhatsApp group for this class, do it. I think that the technology is good if we know how to use it, right? It would be a very easy way for someone who's at a distance to saying in real time, I have a question here. And in fact, last year, many students were always asking questions through WhatsApp, and then there was someone in the class that would say, oh, there's someone here who has a question. I think that it's all a matter of knowing to use. I'm not sure if I'm prepared for it. I think I would probably get very enthusiastic about it and would spend most of the day playing with my two fingers that I'm not very good with, the two thumbs. I'm not the two thumb generation yet, but I think I can become very quickly if I'm exposed to this technology. So I'm still taking this, but I have to admit that it makes life a little difficult sometimes, and that I'm happy at least about, well, maybe two things here. There is Uber, which was difficult with my Nokia. I had to call my daughter and ask her, could you get me an Uber? And she always had to convince them that Uber should go to a different place. But she did that a few times. And there is another thing that I like here is it's a map, a GPS thing that works offline, which I also find very good. But anyway, you'll see that that'll change. I'll have WhatsApp, I'm sure, at some stage, or maybe WhatsApp will die before, because it seems that it's a little suffocating. It seems that people get, at some stage, people say, well, I've heard people tell me, yes, if you're not there yet, please don't get in. People already know that you're not there. They're not going to be too upset if you don't answer their calls, right? But after you've been there, there's no way of getting out.
You have to be available all the time.
Yeah. In fact, for us students and researchers, I would say I understand that this is possible for me because I am a Martian in some extent, right? Mm-hmm. In some extent. What we do as professors is, at least for now, is we have classes, we teach classes, and we do research. While I'm teaching a class, there's no way that I can use this thing, right? And when I'm doing research, there is no way I would like to do it, right? Because I have to keep focused. There is one paper that Nicholas Carr, he's a journalist, but he was the editor of Harvard Business Review. There's a paper that he wrote in 2008. It was still not about WhatsApp, it was about Google. But actually not even about Google, it was about the internet, you know, and the title of the headline was, "Is Google making us stupid?" Look for that paper. It's an interesting paper. I don't want to get to any conclusion, but I'd say that after I read it, I felt a little uncomfortable, right? And he wasn't even talking about the Google itself. It was talking about what we are here happy about, that is the collective intelligence provided by Google. When I say that I don't have to, you know, I'm happy that if I have a little problem, I can go to the great Oracle and ask for it. I'm at the same time changing myself as a person. I'm saying I don't have to learn a few things because some other neuron in the collective will take care of that. And this may be good for this new whole organism that we're building, but I still want to be an individual many times, right? And so not being too connected to this object of study of myself makes me a little more focused in doing that because I'm not being interrupted by other things. So I think as students, that's something that we should think about the technology we use and see if they're not killing more time than they should. You know, they're practical. Definitely, they're practical. If those technologies are not good, people are not going to use them, right? So people use them because they think that they somehow help them become more efficient or more effective, right? But at the same time, each time you have a click or even in our screens today, even if you are in front of a big screen, not a small screen, you have so many interruptions during your thinking that some of Nicholas Carr's arguments about is Google making us stupid makes sense, right? We can't get into deep thinking any longer, not the same way some other people were able to before. As professors, we still try to get into deep thinking, you know, focusing on a topic, but all these technologies disturb that somehow. Well, anyway, I wanted to get into, my idea today is mainly to give you a perspective of the course, what the course is going to be. I think most of them probably had a chance of reading the paper that I sent you. It was Thomas Malone's paper. Malone is one of the researchers that has been studying collective intelligence at the MIT in Boston. So if you look for his name in our academic databases, you'll see that there's a lot being carried out there at the MIT. And he's been studying collective intelligence since at least 2005 or so. We, as usual, here in Brazil, started a little later. Formally, I think we only started our research group here in 2014, so almost 10 years later. But then I realized that we have been studying collective intelligence for much longer than that. In our class for next week, you have a few papers to read that were some of the mainstream papers in my information systems and organizations course. And it's papers that were written in 95, 98, so papers that have been around for 20 years. And although they didn't talk about specifically about collective intelligence, and although they were very focused on organizations and companies in general, because well, at least my research background is in business, they were researchers that were already talking about collective intelligence, because they were discussing ways in which companies could get information from their customers using already the technologies that were available in the second half of the 90s, maybe the beginning of the internet, but many other things that were happening, and that they were using that to collect, to understand better customers. Well, customers are intelligent as well and are collective. So whenever we have a marketing paper like Maquina's Regis Maquina 1995, he was already talking about collective intelligence. At that stage, well, Pierre Levy was already starting to talk about collective intelligence in the 90s, but our business literature was still not using this term. And so I was talking myself about collective intelligence, although I didn't use this term. Some of you will also think, well, I'm not very acquainted to this. I was curious about the name of this course. But you've probably all heard of, for example, crowdsourcing. That is an application of collective intelligence that many companies use to now, instead of depending on their own workers, their own employees, outsourcing the development, or outsourcing even the production or the marketing or whatever to the crowds. Like, so crowdsourcing, the crowds are a collective, and what they call the crowds are basically us, right? Whoever is connected in their networks. So going back to that idea of why collective intelligence became very relevant in more recent years, it's because we are electronically so connected now that what we have been doing for thousands of years, that is getting the synergy of working together with other humans to have a result that is larger than would be the sum of the individual efforts, this is multiplied, or how they say, leveraged by the technology that we have today, and makes it much more important for us to understand collective intelligence and all the different terms that are related to it, crowdsourcing and all of the other crowdfunding. When would anyone in the past think of crowdfunding, the crowds or the collective funding a project? You may say, well, this is also something that has happened for thousands of years. People wanted to build a church. The priest went around collecting coins. That was crowdfunding. But crowdfunding in the internet is much different to that in the magnitude of what is possible today. So we can now build pyramids based on the technology we have. So crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, crowd sensing, using the crowds. If I have this in my pocket, that means that I became a sensor myself, right? And data can be collected based on that. For the good and for the bad, for, you know, and hopefully mainly for the good, right? But think of all the situations in which we, and the gadgets that are attached to us provide information without, and besides provides information without a lot of effort, right? I can tell ways, for example, that I'm in a traffic jam without having to do anything else than just having my smartphone in my pocket. In fact, I think it makes sense to call the phone smart, because it takes decisions on its own. It doesn't depend on me as much as in the past, right? That may be another reason for some rebellion there, right? I still want to be in control somehow, and when my phone is taking decisions for me, it may be convenient, but it is making me feel less powerful than I could before, right? Signs of time. I've had Makina talking about the ways in which we could connect with customers and get their knowledge. Collective intelligence is a lot about knowledge management, which is another topic that has been around for quite a while now, and it's still, if any one of you want to become a consultant for organizations, becoming a knowledge management specialist, whatever that means, will probably provide you with a lot of commercial opportunities, because every organization wants to manage their knowledge in better ways than they do, right? And if you tell the boss that you have a solution to better manage the knowledge of the employees or the customers or the suppliers or whatever, that is the holy grail, right? That's exactly what would sound like music to the ears of executives in organizations. Collective intelligence is a tool. To some extent it's a tool. To some extent, a tool to knowledge management. To some extent, it's the expression of knowledge management. Collective intelligence is sort of a vague term that hasn't been very well defined yet, and maybe this is why it's not used as often as crowdsourcing, that is very specific in one direction, or even the more technological areas or of study like Web 2.0 or even Web 3.0 as we have people discussing today, right? Are you familiar with the term Web 2.0?
Yeah, 2.0, 3.0.
Okay, what is the difference between Web 2.0 and whatever was there before? What is Web 2.0 in your understanding?
The capacity of relating, people relating to people.
Exactly. Okay. It was when technologists realized that they could use the internet technology to allow people to interact much more than in the past. So I would say it's when technologists learned that they could build their systems so that people could connect, so that collective intelligence could arise, right? And this is, it was not we'll see a few papers that will discuss that, and we'll notice that it was not a technological shift, right? The technology for that was basically the same technology that was available since the beginning of the internet. I was going to say since the beginning of the internet in the 90s, but actually the internet has been there at least since the 60s. But since the beginning of the internet, with its commercial purposes, or since the beginning of an internet that was available to more people than just scientists and researchers, that was actually what happened until the mid-90s, right? So there was no technological advance, it was just a mind shift. Actually, I think Web 2.0 is a response to ideas like the ones that I was telling you about. McKenna, this author who said that technologies should be used to build a dialogue with the customers. Build a dialogue, and of course, build a dialogue and extract meaning of this dialogue, extract knowledge, the collective knowledge that arises from there, right? So we'll see from the papers that I selected for next week. They are all very business related, because those were the papers that I was reading in the late 90s when I was preparing my doctoral dissertation, or actually still maybe even in my master's thesis. They were papers that I was reading, and of course they became part of my academic luggage. That was something that some of you who were my students in undergraduate classes, if you haven't read them directly, maybe you have even read some of these papers directly. If you haven't read them directly, you read things that I wrote or other people wrote based on the ideas of these guys, and they were already talking about collective intelligence, right? So that would be the origin. Let me see if I can here. Let me see if I can show you. Yes, I think I can show you our Moodle so that we can discuss a little of the practical. Let me just try and open that. I have to make a little change here. Can't find my mouse. My mouse go. Oh no, it's here. Okay, let me just see. For some reason. This is one of those times that technology is tricking me. Well, I will show you here. For some reason, I didn't want to show on top of the page, but that's I wanted my image to be to the side, but I'm not being able to drag it. So, but anyway, I want to show you the website, or the Moodle. Oh no! Now I understand what it is. It's actually, I thought that when I was trying to show you my Moodle here, I had my image there, but it's actually because my image is showing in Moodle, right? Mm-hmm. So this is why I wasn't being able to drag it. Okay, I just wanted to show you here some of the. No, hang on. No, here it is. Okay. In the Moodle, we have several features there that I want to discuss with you. Of course, there is some information on the syllabus and some other information. It's basically that's the bureaucratic part of it. It's the part where we explain what we're going to do. Then the fun starts here. The wiki, building knowledge together. Right? This wiki, building knowledge together, are you all familiar with what a wiki is? Like Wikipedia is one of the wikis that we will study here, because Wikipedia is the result of collective intelligence, right? Different people, each one doing a little bit of the effort, but then together building the largest encyclopedia that we've always had. For example, if you think about Diderot and D'Alembert, two of the French encyclopedia writers of the 18th century, I think it was the 18th century, they took most of their lives to write in an encyclopedia. And then when I was a kid, I remember that my father once arrived home with an encyclopedia, and he said to us, "Oh, you better read this." We were 5 kids. He said, "This is my investment, or not the only investment, but this is an investment in your future, in your education. You better read it, because the price of these books here," and it was the same of a Fusca, right, a Volkswagen Beetle. So at some stage, this was very expensive, because it was, well, a lot of paper and a lot of knowledge, or at least a lot of information. Nowadays, we have this for free on the web, and how can that be free? Only because many people contributed. Each one of them contributed with a little share. The whole is much bigger than any other encyclopedia that was available before, but it doesn't belong to anyone individually, and no one individually put all the effort required, so there is no price tag to it. So we are building here our own wiki. I have already thought about a few topics, and of course this is the 3rd time that we have this class. We had it in 2016 and 2017. So there's a lot of less things that I wished, but much more than we had in the previous issues of this course. We have a lot of things that are already available here, and I hope that you help me, or not help me, because it's not my own interest. I promise that I will never kick anyone out of this virtual classroom, right? So it will become an area available to all students. You'll see that there are more than, I think, about 200 people that have access to this Moodle class, because it's students who have taken the class in the past. And they have helped me build a few of the topics that are here, because this is collective. So, for example, important definitions. If you're reading about collective intelligence, and there is any term that you want to know, what is this guy trying to say? I'm not familiar with this. Check if it's not here already, for 2 reasons. Because if it's here, it will become clearer to you. If it's not here, you are going to include it here. And you will do the research yourself and include not just the term, but include some sort of academic explanation. Or if you don't have time, at least include the term here, and some other nice person will come and show. Notice that for everything that is in blue here means that we have the term, and someone has already coined a definition, has included something there. For example, I'll just check this collective intelligence. Someone has anonymously already written a few things there. For, I don't know who it was, whoever did it, that didn't do exactly the way I would. They say here, from this reference, if you click here, you probably go to the reference. For that, I usually have a different way of doing it that I show somewhere. Let me try and go back to. I think I show here in this important definitions. Read this first, right? Read this first is, let's try to get organized in the way that we collaborate here, right? I think here I try to explain how we're going to include items there, preferably, but not necessarily. Right? It's better that you include it in a different way. It's not going to be so standardized, but it's there. The information is there, right? There is even a place somewhere where I gave a very little, very basic course on how to sophisticate your wiki building. But basically, anyone can come to our wiki and include a new term. I'll just do it for the sake of sure. Notice here, crowd making is a term that nobody has defined. So if I click in, this is why it's red, right? No one has written anything about crowd making. No one has answered anything or written anything about decision anchoring or decision markets. But notice that most terms that appear here are already in blue, which means that some nice person went there and helped us with, not with pub talking again, right? With something that you go to the literature. It's an opportunity for you to understand it a little better and then help others that will come later understand it better. For some of these tags here, for some of these terms, there's so much that has already been written there that I would say, gee, if someone wanted to organize this, it's a literature review that is already available about this topic, right? But anyway, so we have the important definitions. If you want to include a definition for any of the terms that is marked in red, it's just a matter of clicking on top of it and you'll get to a page. For example, here you have to just say in which format, usually HTML, format, create page. I'm not going to do that right now, but because otherwise it will turn blue and I don't have a definition to include here. But it would be just create a page and then you write there and it's already available for everyone. Some of you may be thinking, gee, is this, how are we sure that someone is not going to there and delete something? We're not, right? In fact, that was one of when Wikipedia started, I remember that I thought, this will never work, because I thought, there's always someone who's going to sabotage, someone who's, for some reason, just for the fun of it, will sabotage it, right? Or because of whatever other reason. Well, Wikipedia and many collective intelligence projects have found ways of including some form of protection against sabotage. I haven't even tried, right? I can say, so if anyone comes here and wants to delete this, he or she will be able to. So I hope you enjoy this course enough not to do that. I mean, the only thing that I can say is that I can trace and see who did it, but after they did it, and I don't even keep a backup of this, right? But we have 200 people here, and it seems that things are growing, so we haven't had sabotage so far. It's a closed group, not anyone. I mean, someone could get in here if I or you invited. You have the access code, but for now, I don't think that this is a place that I should concern too much about sabotage. But you would have to think, in any project, you would have to consider that. There's always the possibility that someone will sabotage your collective intelligence project. Mainly if there are different interests involved, right? If your project pushes some ideas or some efforts that go in the direction of the interests of some agents, and other agents are left or feel that they are losing power or whatever. So we'll discuss this in this. In fact, we'll have one class that is going to be about sabotage and why we should concern about that. But I didn't concern here, so it's a little like, as we would say in Brazil, casa de ferreiro, espeto de pau. So if you don't want to sabotage, so be careful, because sometimes sabotage happens even if you don't want. Just try to help improving this without damaging it, without your intention, right? But notice that I can, if I want to include something else here, I'll just have to come to edit. And when I include edit here, I will get to the page where all those terms are. And let's say, I will not be able to think of a term that is not here right now, but let's say that I wanted to include here after Z, or in X here, I wanted to include something. I would just have to put a double square brackets to open the term that I want, and double brackets at the end, double brackets at the beginning, and double square brackets, right? Oh, yeah. At the beginning and at the end, we'll say that when I save this, that will be a link that someone will be able to click on it, and right. So you can include new terms there as well. I will cancel. I don't want XXXX because that's right. So we have several. In this wiki, building knowledge together, we have what I had already thought of is important definitions, our bibliography references. If you want to include another reference, feel free, right? Try to follow the same pattern that we have already, but feel free. This is not mine. This is everyone's. It's for the whole group. And in fact, one thing that you'll see here, for example, in our bibliography and references, yeah, we tried at some stage. We tried to, for example, sometimes I have students that come from different areas than computer science or business, and then I've had a few students from sociology or psychology. There are areas that are also very interested in collective intelligence. And then I asked them to include references that are sort of related, but not. I asked them to include in different sessions here, and our main reference that we think that are interesting to the topic itself, we include here, and you see that for each one of them there is a link. Many times this link takes either to the text itself, or at least to some more detailed explanation of it. Let me I'll just get, whatever key, Galton 1907. Let me see if when I click here, it even has here, click here to view this paper, because it's available probably on the web directly. It's there. This Galton is a guy who wrote about the wisdom of the crowds in 1907. So see, collective intelligence is not new, right? It's an interesting, we'll be discussing this paper later. Okay, so we have the references. What else do we have there? We have in the news, right? So things that you see that are related, you saw something that was on a magazine, you can include here, feel free. Blogs on collective intelligence, there are a few authors that keep their blogs. Whatever you find interesting, feel free to include here, right? The wiki is a very powerful collective intelligence tool, and as I said, we don't want to only study collective intelligence, we want to practice it as much as we can. Okay, let me go back here. And then we will have a forum for discussion of project ideas. I usually, sometimes I clean a few things, mainly when we're talking about specific projects for students that are not here any longer, but I decided to keep the project ideas from students from previous semesters, because I think they give you ideas of things that you can study, right, for this class. I know that for some of you, this is just another course in a graduate course, right? In a graduate program. For some of you, it is your research topic. So this, for those of you who think of collective intelligence, Web 2.0, crowdsourcing, or whatever, any of these things as the topic that you want to study, I would recommend you to include your project ideas here, because then the other colleagues are able to give you ideas, to exchange ideas with you, and I will also be able to do that. But for those of you who are just taking this for the credits, and this is going to be a general knowledge class, you only have to concern to doing the readings during the course and participating, interacting in our wikis as much as you can, but mainly in our forums. Okay, so there are the two possibilities. We will have somewhere here, I think we have the date. We have an exam for this course that is going to be on the 25th of May, right? So get prepared for that date. That's when you will be assessed for all the readings that you did, and right. And this is a formal exam for people who are taking this from a distance. All your supervisors have already agreed with me that I will send them the exams, and they will apply the exams. And for you who are here, yeah, you'll take a written exam here in class. There is an alternative to that, that is building a project. And the alternative is, I mean, you can take the exam or you can build the project. Building the project will mean that you have a little more time until mid-June to present your project. I in fact think that this is the most interesting approach, because you will then try to develop further a topic related to the area. As research for us, it's what I would would incentivize you to do. But again, you have the possibility of doing just the exam, right? And for the undergraduate students, I think there are a few of you here. There is a mismatch between the classes. The graduates, our graduate program is a three-month course, so it's March, April, May. And for the undergraduate students, classes will go until the end of June. So that for undergraduate students, there is the possibility of also using whatever time from May until June to develop these projects. Okay. So in the forum, we have some discussion of, we now only have projects of students who are not in this class for sure, in several different areas. Some are interested in teaching or research. In fact, there is one of my master students who is changing he's working on changing some of the characteristics of Moodle to make Moodle a Web 2.0 tool, right? I'm not sure if he'll be able to present, if we'll be able to include any of the developments that he's been doing and exercise it here with you, but basically you probably would all agree with me that Moodle is a Web 1.0 tool, right? If we can call it 1.0. It's not meant for a lot of interaction. Of course, it has the wiki possibility, which would be Web 2.0. It has the forum possibility, but as most technologies, as it happens with most technologies, Moodle also Moodle empowers, Moodle emphasizes some ways of doing. We usually say that you give someone a hammer and then the person only sees nails. That happens with most of our technologies. You'll see that most of the Moodle courses are just a repository for files, upload and download of files, right? You download files from there and you upload your essays and assignments. And that happens not because teachers are not concerned with involving the students. More, it's just because that's the way the technology pushes us. Those are the features that are very clearly available. If you want to use other tools, you have to put more effort into it, and then these things usually don't happen. So, this is all to say that we here we have, and some of you may be interested in thinking in ways of using collective intelligence in teaching, in research. There's a huge opportunity for research. In fact, researchers are collective intelligence, how do I say, collective intelligence agents, have always been like that. If you think about it, you've probably already read of the way that Newton exchanged letters with, I don't know, Kepler, or I don't even know if those two guys were alive exactly at the same time. But they, when they exchanged those letters, and we read about that, then we think, were they friends? No, they were academic. They developed their work, and they had to present it to other academics that could assess, the same way as we do today with sending papers to journals and then receiving feedback. That was the way they did back then. So researchers in the past were already very dependent on the collective and on collective intelligence to do their work. But nowadays we are really empowered to develop research. The fact that we have access to all these databases of papers is actually already a tool of collective intelligence, because we are developing our studies not only based on our empirical data, but after having assessed, after having read the developments that were carried out by other researchers and other in previous in previous studies, right? But think, for example, about genetics and the way that they can develop new biotech solutions for problems that have been there for ages. There are some studies that, for example, explain how researchers trying to decode the DNA of a species take ages, 10 years to do that. And then now they include or they propose that challenge to the crowds of the internet. And even undergraduate students of biology, can each one of them help with the little understanding that they have, and then all of that is summed up, and they solve a problem that used to take 10 years, they solve in 3 weeks. That's collective intelligence. And there are some people that are studying these kind of things. In fact, next semester I'm going back to the University of California in Berkeley, and my challenge there is working with postdoctoral students or people that have a postdoctoral positions there, trying to make them engage in collective intelligence, trying to make them work together. There is, well, some of you who worked with or studied with Jordan in undergraduate. Jordan was one of students of ours here who developed a platform for entrepreneurs to explain their ideas, the ideas of new businesses, to other entrepreneurs and help each other. I want to take Jordan's approach to use with these guys there, and maybe build a platform where different postdoctoral students can show what they know and check what others, the abilities of others, to match them and get them to be faster in solving the problems that they have. Let me go back here to the discussion, to the forum in which we have those discussions. For-profit ideas, there's plenty. Of course, it's very easy to find clever entrepreneurs who have developed ways of harnessing the collective intelligence to build their own businesses. As I said before, I'm not so interested on them directly. I don't want to provide them with tools to further develop their businesses, but we want to try and understand the tools that they use so that we can use collective intelligence in more social projects, or in projects where mankind can definitely profit as a whole and not as individuals, but they're here. Smart cities, yeah, urban planning depends or could depend a lot on collective intelligence information. In fact, Carla has worked with information from Twitter, right, in her master's thesis a few years ago, and there's, well, from 3 years to now, there's a lot more that can be done with respect to collecting this kind of information, analyzing it, and returning to the populations solutions to problems that are not very difficult to see when you talk to these collectives, when you use the collective intelligence of the populations. We've had a few students here working, for example, with data from the mayor's complaint telephone number, you know, the 156 in Curitiba. And they very easily, now we have, as we have open data in Brazil, there is this legislation that requires that government offices provide open data for the population. You just go there, you get that information that was collectively put together, and you analyze it, and you get solutions that it's sometimes sounds even weird that the mayor has not thought of yet. It's mainly because in the past we depended a lot on our politicians doing things for us. We'll have to take responsibility, and we can take responsibility now. I would like to see, for example, projects in which we as citizens become more responsible even for the streets where we live. In the past this happened and we called it community. You know, like people agreed, neighbors agreed to go there and clean a block of land that is full of garbage because they wanted a nicer environment, nicer suburb. Nowadays we live so confined in our own places, and we have lost this ability of working in community. I think collective intelligence can bring that back. Mainly if we can show it's the effort, it's little effort that is required from each one, but the benefit for everyone is great. We had also here an undergraduate student who was working on a project, Bruno Milliam, who was working on a project for what we call terreno baldio, or land that is left without attendance by the owners, and unfortunately he did all the theoretical part of it. He even built a platform for that, but then when he graduated, we were not able to keep going with it. But the idea was, well, if you have some unattended land in a neighborhood, it doesn't matter if it's private or public. Let's go there as citizens or as neighbors. Let's clean it. Let's turn it into a square that can be used for the kids. Is that legal? No, you cannot invade of course, you're not going to break into a place that is gated and everything. But if it's open, you go there and you clean. And if someone complains later, you say, "Excuse me, I cleaned it for you." We're not, you know, saying that we're not denying property. It's your property. If you clean, you keep it. If you don't worry. We'll take care while you're not using it, and we'll take care for a good reason. Maybe we can. His idea was involve, for example, a company that sold things for the house, and they could give the benches. And maybe another company would give the paint, and then the neighbors would go there and do the cleaning and everything, and you would have a space. It's romantic. It may be difficult for you to launch the first project like that, but after you have one or two cases to show, it's probably something that other people would think. Little effort from each one. I said that what I would do is I would provide them with the beer after they did the work. I'm a beer brewer, so I said, well, at the end of the day, I can go there and help with cleaning, but at the end of the day, the beers will be on me. Well, and see, so there are other projects here, ideas of projects. Notice that these are just topics, and then inside each topic, social commitment and citizenship. Notice that here there's 29 interactions, because that's the area that we think that there's, that is at least the area that we like the most. You can look at those things, interact with it, and decide if you want to include your own projects there. Right? Okay, maybe before we go any further, we usually hear, at least for you who are here, maybe who's at home, right? They're drinking their coffee and everything. We need a break, right? Mainly in a class that is so much like a lecture. So we'll stop for some 20 minutes until 10:20 or so, and then we can go on from here. Okay, so what I'll do here, I will just include we'll be back soon